Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here. Thanks for checking out the show. We appreciate it. Real quick, if you haven't done so already, go check out the new and improved hardmoneymastermind.com. Create an account, join the conversation with us and 2,600 other private lenders, hardmoneymastermind.com. All right, today we're talking about communication. Effective communication and how we've learned over the years to adjust it based on the personality that we're dealing with. And this can be both on the borrower side and the investor side. We're going to have a bunch of pro tips for you.
Yeah, this is a lot more important than I think some might think, because depending on your personality type or depending on potential borrower investor personality type, you're going to clash for no reason whatsoever besides that you guys just communicate differently. And there's no reason for you to clash in this particular case, right? Like, people just think differently, they act differently, they communicate differently. Some people like, text or email. Some people like phone calls. Like, you got to learn that real quickly when you're on the phone and you're talking to people, so you know how to adapt to them, right? Like, if somebody's a dominant personality type, like, you can't write them a book. They're never going to freaking read it, and it's going to be a waste of time. And, and if you're short and sweet to somebody who's over analytical, they'll be offended by it. So you got to be very, very, careful. And you just learn it from reps and talking to borrowers. So I'm going to go over a few examples of some borrower types, and some of these borrower types drive me absolute crazy, right? But I know who they are, and I get it, and that's fine. And as long as you recognize that you can adapt to it. So we have two particular borrowers. One that we do a lot of deals for, one that we do some deals here and there for. And like, they're just all over the freaking place. You can't get docs from them. They answer with one, word sentences. It's hard to get them on the phone, but they're good borrowers and they perform. And if they say they're going to do a deal, they're going to do the deal. And then they make payments and pay it back and rinse and repeat. And I know that they'll have a very hard time working with other lenders, because the other lenders aren't going to put up with their stuff. And the other lenders are going to need more documentation. So we can use that for our advantage. Like, I'll give you an example. Got a loan from a borrower about a week ago that has to close, either later this week or early next week. It was via email, and he emailed the title company and was like, "Hey, so-and-so, I'm going to drop off my earnest money deposit. Here's my ratified contract." He CC'd everybody. Jason's the lender. He'll send you what you need, type of situation. Like, that was it. So I texted him and I'm like, "Hey, got your email. No problem. When you need to close, I'll get this taken care of." No response. No response whatsoever. Right. So, like, I can't really do anything. Right. So in essence, I reached out to the title company. I'm like, "Hey, do me a favor. Send me the purchase contract, send me this, send me that, send me this." I'm just going through the property, them by them, or the title company. So I text him another email. I'm like, "Hey, listen, I really just need to know these particular things, and I'll get this thing done for you as promised. No big deal." And he sends me the answer to it. And I'm like, and then of course, like, 'cause you can't ask them too many questions at once, because they're only going to answer one of them. That is a freaking pro tip. If someone's got a personality type like that, do not ask them multiple questions at once. They will answer zero of them. So you answer one question. So then, in essence, he texts me back the answer. And then I asked him one other question. Haven't heard from him. This is like 2 or 3 days later. And these are one question. Like, I can't get a hold of them. So, like, Terry in our office, our portfolio manager, would be like, "Hey, have you heard from so-and-so? I need, the property insurance before we go to closing in the next day or two." And I'm like, "I can't get a hold of him. He'll send it." And he will. Like, what will end up happening is the day of closing, he gets the HUD-1 and, he'll go to closing and he'll sign. And then he'll be like, "Hey, Jason, can you send your wire?" I'll be like, "I need your insurance." And then he'll send the insurance, and then we'll wire the funds. It'll all work out. And this is a little bit extreme with this guy. But point being is, like, you got to just understand their personalities and adapt to it. And it's hard on the beginning, the first deal, right? Because you really need to make sense of it. You want to make sure, like, he's actually serious. And if that's the case, I would schedule an in-person meeting with him, or really get on the phone and just get, every once in a while I can get him on the phone. And if I am, I'm like, "Hey, listen, let's just go through these few things. I'll be 10 seconds and we'll move. We'll keep it moving. And that's typically what happens. But like not, and it's funny because I know he has like 3 different email addresses that I've used for him over the last 10 years. So I'll spam the crap out of him. I'll send all 3 emails. I'll text him. I'll call him. Like I'll do whatever. So, and let's be honest, like eventually he'll reach back out and I know that he's fine. But point being is like, that's an extreme example. And like, you gotta know that. You do an example, then I'll go back to another borrower example.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you were talking, like imagine with that type of personality on the borrower side, just emailing them, here's a link to the loan application, fill this out, and the list of 6 documents we need. Like it's just not happening.
It's not.
And I think because of that, a personality, like if you can adjust and actually get deals done with that I-type personality as a borrower, they're not going anywhere. They're going to have a lot of time getting deals closed unless you adjust to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, let me add one more thing that I just forgot. About a year ago, he had sent me like 3 deals at once. And usually we do like a deal every other month for him, but he sent me 3 deals at once. And like, I'm sure that put him in the weeds, like having to work on 3 deals. But anyways, so I couldn't get a hold of him. And I'm like, bro, just let me know if we're doing these or not. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to bother you type of situation.
Yeah.
And I sent him like a passive aggressive response like a few days later because I was kind of pissed off because like he never got back to me on it. Like he told me we were going to do these deals. They're big loan amounts. Like I was excited about it. So in essence, I was like, I guess you decided to go with another lender on a deal like this. And then he responded and was like, dude, I've done 50 loans with you and I've never used another hard money lender. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Good answer. They
and
just
I'm
fell
like, okay,
apart.
well, can you send me so-and-so?
In that case, he just didn't end up buying the properties or something fell through.
No, he did. It wasn't a priority for him. Like I get these real estate agents that call me, be like, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? I need this. And I'm like, yeah, good luck, bud.
Good luck. All right. So a couple examples that I've learned over the years on the investor side of things is like, first of all, pay attention to how they like to communicate. Like Jason mentioned before, if you're prospecting for capital, you're definitely going to be working with some D personality types and you don't want to take up their time. You want to make things easy for them. They're probably not going to read your attachment. So put the bullet points like very clear in the body of the email when you first reach out. And then once you have a conversation, that conversation is going to go well and they're going to ask the right questions. And if you're prepared, they're going to feel that you're competent to handle money for them, right? And then you have to watch some other people. Some C personalities, the analytical type will slip into, and they do want a lot of information. They might want a phone call in addition to the deal information that you email over. They might want to talk it through. Totally fine. This is up to them. I mean, I basically tailor my communication style to what is going to work the best for them, right? Some people just want to respond with a book-long email, and it's like, okay, that's, not my favorite way of communicating, but like I can roll with it when I need to. And then you'll notice some people, some more passive investors and some S personality types, maybe some self-directed IRA investors, is like they're trusting you to do your thing. You'll notice that even if you give them a status on something or an explanation on something, they kind of don't care. Like they're not in the business like you are. They're not actively underwriting and managing stuff. And that's totally fine. If that's their style and we can just let our back-end loan servicing system do its thing, pay you when it comes in, statements go out when they're supposed to, and you don't need any further communication, then so be it, right? So be it. And so over the years, I've learned, and it came pretty quick, like when we dove into this thing many years ago, and I was handling investor capital, I noticed and learned these things pretty quickly because I was trying to be as effective as I could. And of course, the systems and software and all that stuff over time helped a lot. But something to be aware of, to be as effective as you can when dealing with capital investors.
And I think a good takeaway from what you said is you do got to adapt to them, right? Because they're not going to adapt to you. You got to adapt to them. And none of us as operators and owners of a lending company want to spend all day and write a book back to a capital investor answering their questions. We just want to get on the phone and in 30 seconds go through it. Like that's just typically how we are. Maybe send a text, something like that. But it's a good use of time. So you got to. So, all right. So I'm going to do 2 other ones. quickly. I'm not going to go into his detail on that first one. That first one was just top of mind because I have 2 borrowers and their deals we're working on. So 2 other deals we're working on. The first one right now is a first-time borrower of ours, D personality. I can tell he's like dominant, like he, just by the questions that he's asking me and stuff. And listen, those are really easy for me to answer because like I don't have to sweat all the intricacies and the small stuff of a deal. It's like, yeah, man, of course we're going to help you in this deal. We lend our own money. It's super simple. We're going to be at 12.99 and 3 points, 1-year loan, really fast, flexible. You said you need to close by next week. I only really need a few documents from you. We'll get it all closed, blah, blah, blah. We'll get it closed next week. And very, very simple. And they like, oh, that's great. Like, how do you, I just talked to another lender and, they need all this paperwork. Kind of seems like a pain in the neck. Like I got to go pay for an appraisal. What do you guys do in this case? And I'm like, listen, we use our own money on these deals. I'm local. We're in Columbia, Maryland. You're in so-and-so. If you want to meet in the future, happy to. But like, this will be a very, very easy process. We've done 4,000 of these loans for all the big real estate investors all over the area. Like, this is what we do. Very, very simple. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like working with the local lender seems, going to be way easier than what I was dealing with this institution. And like, I didn't go into the details of any details on stuff, just broad overview. And I was like, here's the next step. Send me your ratified contract real quick. So I have all the numbers. I'll put together a real quick term sheet and we'll make this work. You're going to need $70,000 gas to close. Like we already talked about this, but like in essence, like this is what you're going to need. Be like, yep, that works. That's kind of what I was expecting anyways. And I sent him an email with everything, very, very quickly afterwards. And, the next day, and I typically follow up with a text message, say, hey, I just sent you everything. Let me know if you have any questions. He's like, cool, I'll get on it immediately. And then the next day he sends me everything back and, put it into processing and get it closed. Like it's easy. It was a very simple, quick process on that. And I knew who I was handling with. Another side of that deal is I was dealing with a C personality type recently, an analytical one. And he was asking me a lot of questions that was kind of annoying, but like at least it was on the phone. And at least it was on the phone. And a 5-minute conversation took to about 15 minutes. I don't like spending 15 minutes on a conversation, but I also knew that he had cash. He had experience. He just needed to know kind of like a little bit more detail on some of these things. So it was no problem, right? Like I didn't have to spend half a day going to a meeting. I didn't have to, go back and forth, writing an email with ADD. Like it was just easier to just, let's bang it out. We do one call. Because if you bang out that call and you actually go into detail and you're spending time and quality with people, you don't need to do much more after that, right? You get all the questions answered up front. Hey, do you have any other questions? Do you have this? Like piecemealing stuff together is the worst thing you can do in this business. It'll drive you freaking crazy if you're just talking to people over and over and over and over and over. Like, let's just bang it all out. Answer any questions that you have. So, he sent me a very detailed email after the fact of all of the stuff I requested, this. And, he asked a bunch of other questions and I'm just, I haven't followed up with him yet, but I'm going to just do a follow-up call and go through it all. And, I'll spend time on it, even though it's more analytical than I would like, because it's a deal, or it's going to be a deal. So the important part and the big takeaway of all of this is understand who those borrowers are and deal with it. And like, don't get frustrated about it, because some deals are going to go very, very quickly and easily and be adaptive to your style. And some are not. And the ones that are not, if you don't adapt to them, they will take it as an insult and they think that you're being mean to them and they won't like to work with you. I promise you. So you have to kind of accommodate them.
That's the pod for today, guys. Hopefully you had some good takeaways and think about your process, especially when it comes to origination. Like, I know that a lot of people want to have a set, here's the way we do our origination process and everyone has to conform to it. But I think that's perfect world kind of thinking. That would be nice. But the reality is, like, getting deals done with other personality types is going to require some adjustment. So hopefully you got some good value from that. You can apply it right away in your lending business. We'll see everyone inside hardmoneymastermind.com. And then again here next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.